great. I just realized our names are all jacked up. Okay, great. I'm
Okay.
actually.
Oh, the name switched.
Sweet.
All right. See, now I put faces to the wrong names. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, sorry.
Like, I
There
was
is
like
no
one.
Brandon here, and I am not Joey.
I heard Joey say Jorge, and I was like, that's not what his name says. I must be blind. All right, cool. So let me share my screen with you guys. A second here. Okay.
Great. Yep.
Can you guys see this?
Yes.
All right. And then Joey, is that recording? Does it say it's recording on your end?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, cool. So to give you guys some background here, Klaviyo is an email marketing platform that's built specifically for e-commerce. So our whole goal is to help you guys hook up into the back end of Shopify and help you guys utilize all the data that you collect about your customers so that you guys can hopefully send out more targeted and personalized messages based off the actions and behaviors that people are doing on your site. So we're a very data-focused company. We're very focused around pulling in that customer data here. So especially with Shopify, there's like three main types of data that you guys will pull in right off the bat. First is going to be order data, right? It's like when someone comes through and places an order,
Wait,
what
Mitch,
are they buying?
I don't know if it's important, but it's like impossible to read. Is that important? That I know what it says?
No, not really. I'm going to get into like a profile here. I'll show you where this all goes. So you'll actually see this data here in a second, and then I can zoom in for you so you can see it. This particular screen is just an activity feed, but I'll dive in more in a second. So first off is like order data. So that's like when someone orders a product, right? If someone starts to check out, and again, I'll get into this more in a second. Start to check out, places an order, right? Like what level are they buying? Level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Are they buying a one-off session with you guys? Just understanding what people are buying. 2 is going to be web data. Is really just understanding like, are people spending time on your site? If so, like how long are they spending on your site? What pages are they viewing? And that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And third is going to be email data. So like understanding like opens, clicks, what parts of the email are people actually engaging on. And those 3 data points really help to put together kind of like a holistic profile of each one of your customers. So that you guys can get a good understanding of all the actions and behaviors that they've taken, either on your site, engaged with your store, and purchased. The way Klaviyo stores data is a little bit different than MailChimp. So MailChimp's like a list-based system. So I'm sure that you guys have it set up similarly, where it's like you have your newsletter list, you have your customer list, you have like different lists of people in MailChimp. Safe to assume that's how you guys have it set up today?
Yes.
Okay. The limitation with Gotcha. So the limitation with that is it's very siloed. So like if you guys wanted to build a segment, for example, you'd have to build it in like each individual list. You have to build the same segment 3 or 4 times depending on how many lists you have. The nice part about Klaviyo is we're a profile-based system. So our whole goal is to basically take a very customer-centric view of the world. So at any given point in time, you can see all of the actions and behaviors of about a particular person, one of your customers, in this one central place. So this is like their profile. So the best way to think about Klaviyo is really a database of profiles. So we'll see here that Christina, Joey, can you see this better now?
It's so small.
Let me see if I can zoom in.
Am I blind? Am I going blind?
Yeah, Joey, I think, are you looking at it on a small screen? Why don't you just make it full size maybe?
You're right. I don't like full ICP. You're right. Jorge, how'd you smart? Your brain.
You know what's interesting is I'm seeing some similarities here. At one of my previous employers, we used Intercom, and it looks like I see some more sort of similarities here with Klaviyo, which I really kind of am liking. It's like a hybrid. It almost seems.
Yeah. So our whole goal is honestly structured more like a CRM.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's like, this is all the info that you have about Christina, right? So we can see that she placed an order and this is what she bought. And this is all the details, right? Like what collection was she buying out of and things like that. These are the emails, right? So she looks like she signed up for their welcome coupon, right? Came in, received an email, opened that, clicked on the link on Monday, probably thought about it for a few days, received another email, and then used that code ultimately to go check out. So we can see that they used that 1-day sale code, which was in this piece here, right? The today only email. So you can actually see the journey that she went through as the customer. in terms
Mm-hmm.
of how she actually ultimately went through from signing up to making that first purchase. We'll also see any other like lists and segments that are relevant to her. So the concept behind it being a profile-based system is that someone could live on 25 different lists and segments, right? It's just whatever's relevant to them. And so we just want to be able to list out so that at any given point in time, we can see like what different groupings they exist on. Because within Klaviyo, like from a pricing perspective, we charge only by the number of profiles, right? So it doesn't really matter how many lists you're on. It's just that central profile that matters. You'll be able to see, are they on my newsletter
That's
list,
great.
my customer list? Where MailChimp, it's pretty hard to see if someone exists on, the 4 different lists that you have, or if they're just on 1 or 2,
Right.
something like that. We're also going to pull in, like, if you guys wanted to track like custom information of like where they're coming from, how they found you, or if you just wanted to track like properties about people, right? Like maybe you wanted to start tracking interests, right? As part of the sign up process, you ask them a question and said, hey, like, who do you write for, or like, what are you interested in writing about, right? You could start to track that information. You could actually just put that as a custom property on their profile. You could use that information to kind of segment and tailor the content that you send out to those people.
No, I love this. This is great.
Cool. You guys probably honestly won't spend a lot of time in the profile section. This
Yeah.
is just kind of a breakdown of the type of data that Klaviyo collects and the level of data, that granularity that we get to.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's going to become really powerful is when you start to do things like segmentation and automation, right? So if we think about Klaviyo as a database of profiles, you can choose to break that up in however you want. So there's really kind of 2 main ways that you can break up customers. One is through a list or static, right? You would attach a pop-up to a list, a sign-up form. Someone signs up, they get added to your newsletter. It's not really going to change unless they opt out or you pull them off. A segment, however, is more dynamic. This is where we can start to come in and say, hey, you know what? Like, I want to go find everyone that is placed in order at least once in the last, X period of time, maybe 6 months, out of a particular collection, right? And I want to say that they've, opened an email from me at least once, maybe in the last 90 days. We can start to incorporate some engagement data in here as well. So you can really start to break down and get super granular in the groupings of customers. So if you guys wanted to keep track of everyone that had purchased your level, your career writer program, or everyone that's only purchased a one-off but never purchased the career writer program, right? You can start to just build out these segments super easily, based off that order data, the email data, and that web activity data here.
No, this is great.
And these segments are dynamic. So like, for example, if I made a segment of everyone that purchased your one-off pitch versus the career program, I never purchased a career program. If I then went onto your site and purchased the career program, started that, I would automatically get removed from that segment because it's no
That's
longer
great.
relevant to me. So if you guys do start to venture out into like some Facebook advertising, some paid advertising, or try and build that out a little bit, you can actually connect these segments up with Facebook audiences. So you can actually have this sync directly to an audience in Facebook. So as soon as someone gets added to this segment, they're added to the audience, and vice versa. If they get removed from the segment, they get removed from the audience, and that's all dynamic.
I like it.
Cool. In terms of like the flows, so flows in Klaviyo are more like the automation and the triggered emails within the account. So we'll pre-build you kind of 6 best practice like e-commerce based flows out of the box. It's going to be things like a welcome series, an abandoned cart, customer win back email, doing things like a browse abandonment. So because we can track web activity, we can also make that actionable and send emails off of that. Say, hey, we saw you were spending time on the site. Maybe saw you were checking out the career writer program. This is why you should, do it. Right. So we can just hit them a little bit earlier in the process, to try and get them to convert. We do have a visual flow builder experience. This is going to look pretty different than what you guys are doing in MailChimp today, where it's more logic based. Within Klaviyo, it is a visual system. So the way this is going to work is there'll be a trigger event that will kind of denote when someone gets put into the email. So for example, in an abandoned cart email, when someone starts to check out, and then we filter it down. We say, well, when only they just haven't placed an order is when I want them to get this particular email. And I can filter this down even further, right? So I can actually look at this checkout started event and say, hey, you know what? If this checkout started event is from my career writers collection, maybe I want to send them a different abandoned cart than people that are purchasing from my, one-off pitch session or something like that. So you can actually limit who comes into this. A good example of this is if you're doing like an upsell. So you say like, hey, maybe you trigger off a placed order event. You say if they place an order for level 1, maybe, I want to schedule an email to go out 30 days later to recommend them to buy level 2, right? So you can start to tailor that process and really get targeted in terms of the types of emails that you're sending out. Again, just using that behavioral data to send the right email to the right people and upsell the right products.
That's cool.
I like it actually helps also having the sort of like mind map type flow there as a visual aid too. It actually helps to really sort of put it in perspective. So that's great.
Because when most people plan out like drip sequences, this is how they do it, right? You're like on a piece of paper and you're writing down like email 1, and I want to draw a line to like email 2.
Yeah, exactly.
And sometimes it's just really hard to translate that into like a logic-based statement with what like MailChimp is doing. So we just said, screw it, we're going to build this out so it just mimics that experience there.
And I really like the yes no sort of options, because that's I think very true to customer behavior, and so it still allows us to get them in their own sort of flows. But I love it.
Yeah, definitely. And these are what we call splits, and there's 2 different ways you can do it. It's like a trigger split pulls information from the checkout started event. So that's where you would say like, hey, is the value greater than a certain amount, right? I want to send people this way versus the value, or maybe are they purchasing from a particular collection, right? Hey, if they purchase from this collection, I want to send them this way. If they purchase from a different collection, I want to send them this way, right? So that's where you can start to incorporate that data. A trigger or a conditional split would be more around like, what other data in Klaviyo can I use to sort, right? So that's like any of the profile data. So you could say, hey, I want to send a first-time customer this way or a repeat customer this way. So that's kind of the difference between what's called a trigger split and a conditional split. Any questions here?
No, I think I'm good with this portion.
Okay, is this everything you've been looking for?
I think so. That and a bag of chips.
Nice. And I'll hop into email design here as well, because I know you just want to take a look at that as well. But cool.
Yeah, and I do remember one of the things that was frustrating with our experience, and this I think stemmed from the fact it's just essentially that if a customer purchased a repeat product, and that purchase was supposed to then trigger an automated email from MailChimp to them, it stopped. It would only send it to them one time, and it wouldn't send it to them again. And so it started to create some sort of confusion amongst customers. And that could have been for, the reason they may not have been receiving that was, again, if they had previously purchased it once before, or if they had, previously, I think that was really one of the main frustrating things with it. Was, you're telling it to do something, and it's like, oh, I'm not going to do it because I decided that because they did this, we're not going to do it.
Right. Yeah, and that's just from a structural standpoint, like how MailChimp's set up. Because typically the way it works is like you get added to like an abandoned cart list, and that's when it like sends the abandoned cart. It's like if you get added another time, it makes it hard to do something like that. The way Klaviyo is built is we're just hijacking that. We're just going right to the metric, right? We're saying, hey, whenever a placed order event comes in, that's what I'm going to send this email off of. And you can choose to filter that down if you want it to be when the second placed order comes in, the third, or any placed order that's after the first one, right? That's when you get to go in and decide and really kind of customize this to the experience that you want your customers to have.
Cool.
One question I have for MailChimp, if you time warp a mailer and you send it, you tell it to go out, and like an hour after it's been starting to send out and you're like, oh shoot, I made a mistake, I want to stop it, you can't. For you guys, can you stop an email that's sending out over the course of 24 hours?
Yeah, I mean, you could stop sending. Like if you're trying to send like over the course of time, you could stop it. You say like, oh, cancel. If you want. Do you guys typically stagger over the course of time, or most people will just kind of send it up?
A lot, like to make sure it goes out at 8 o'clock in the morning, whatever time zone they're in.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, you can do the same thing with Klaviyo. So you could just choose the local time zone, and then you have the opportunity to cancel. Obviously, you won't be able to pull back anything that's already sent, but anything that hasn't sent, you could stop, whatever's
You can stop. Okay.
not in flight at the moment. So, okay, cool. So this is our template editor here. Hopefully this looks pretty similar to the experience that you guys have in MailChimp today. So, dragging in text, images, things like that. This is just an example template here. We do have a whole template library that you guys can pull out of. We do incorporate more data into these templates. We actually do pull in your whole product catalog in. So if you guys wanted to actually go search and say like, hey, I want to recommend like particular courses that I want to put in, I can just pop those right into the email itself.
So easy. I love it.
Which makes it super easy. And then you can also do like, recommendations. You can actually do personal. We have a recommendation engine here. They'll actually search through their profile and say, hey, based on your past purchase history, like I'm going to recommend you, products accordingly. Where you guys are, because you have like such a strict program, it may not make sense to do that, right? You'd probably want to say like level 2s, I want to get this particular set, of recommendations. A level 3, get level 4. But if you wanted to recommend some like one-off stuff, you could do that too.
Right. Yeah, like we do have a couple of evergreen sort of products where it's not so time sensitive, and those could be a couple things that we could put there.
Mm-hmm. And you can set up like the product feeds to pull from, right? So you can actually set up a feed that says, hey, only pull from like evergreen products for this, so that you don't even have to worry about like a career writer's product getting tossed into that by accident.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Nice thing here is we do have what are called saved blocks. So say like you build out your logo and your link bar, and that goes out on every email, right? So you don't have to like recreate that every single time you send it out. You can just hit this star button, save the block, and name it. You'll see it show up here in this block. You can just pop it in. So, right, we can just say, great, I want to throw my like logo, my logo bar, or whatever, and just boom. So I just toss it in, and that will show up on every template that every template editor that you're in. You just pop it in. So if you guys are sending out 2 emails a day, I'm sure there's a lot of similar content. You can also build like a base template as well and just reuse that a bunch of times. So a couple different ways you can go about it. Does this look similar to the experience you guys have in MailChimp?
It does.
Or?
No. Is there a place, if ever we needed to sort of just manually code something or add a little bit of custom HTML in there? Is there a view to do that? Oh, perfect. Source. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So you can just pop in. You'll see the source button here. It'll take you right into the code if you guys want to get in and start playing around with some stuff.
Got it.
Cool.
Joey, anything based on and what about now? Oh, so I take it maybe will be the next place. So this is just design, and then we're gonna kind of move to like preview text and title and or subject line and all that.
Yeah. So like when you're sending out, so there's basically 2 different types of emails. You can send a flow or a campaign. So in the flow, you'll preset all that, like whether you want the subject line to be, who do you want to come from, what the from name. You can change all that. A campaign, same thing, just setting it up along the way. So live accounts, I can't leave too much of a paper trail here. So basically, a campaign, you're just choosing the list or segment you want to send to. This is super straightforward. You just choose the group that you want to send to. It will take you into the template editor. If you've built out a template for it already, you can just pop that template in. Lots of people will do like a base template, and they'll just pop in their base template and change everything in between. It's usually the easiest way to do it. And then you can just fire it. And and obviously as part of that, you'll choose like you'll have like a default from address, who it's coming from, and then you can put in a subject line and everything there. So it's just like the next. So if I hit like save and continue to content, it's just gonna yell at me because I didn't do the thing. All right, it's yelling at me. It'll basically take you to a screen where you can change subject line and stuff. Not terribly difficult. There. You can track this back to Google Analytics as well. So I'm not sure if you guys use GA, but you can track this UTMs back there if you want, if you guys are using that.
Nice.
Cool. The nice thing about Klaviyo is we're going to give you a bunch of in-depth analytics around like how these emails perform. So like from a revenue standpoint, like how much of these emails are actually converting for you. So you'll see, how much revenue these are making, your open rate, your click rate, and we can dive into this as well to see like, what devices are people opening on, what domains are they using? Are they using more Gmail or Hotmail or AOL or something like that? So you guys can, start to get in and analyze that if you want as well.
So like if let's say you had like 2 CTAs, like one at the top of the page, one at the bottom, like you can, you can like kind of pull that sort of that data.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you could do like link activities. So if you had 2 calls to
Oh,
action,
nice.
you
Yep.
can come in here and you can look at it in a visual standpoint as well. So
Mm-hmm.
we can actually just look at the campaign, and then it will tell us percentages, right? So it'll say like 87% of people here clicked on this,
That's great.
87%, or used that link there, 2% clicked on these, right? So it will tell you like where people are actually engaging.
Yep. That's great. Oh, is this a real
Cool.
business? This whole quilted t-shirt
Yeah,
company?
it's a huge business. It's a huge business.
Wow.
Yeah. These guys, they've been with Klaviyo since the beginning. I think they've been on the platform for like 5 years at this point. But
Nice.
yeah, it's a huge business. They got a factory down in Rhode Island, and they just pump out t-shirt quilts all day long.
That's awesome.
So it's pretty cool. We do have sign-up forms. If you guys want to use Klaviyo pop-ups, you could. I don't know if you guys have a pop-up provider that you're using already or that you like, but if you wanted to use some of ours, you could do that as well. You could do anything from like an exit intent to loading delays, scrolling delays, that kind of stuff. And you can choose to show on certain screens as well. You can choose to only show to people that are not currently in Klaviyo as well. Just options there.
Awesome. I mean, I think that covers the questions that I had. Joey, what about you for like, I know, a lot of the marketing one-off emails that you send. Do you have any other questions based on that part?
I don't think so. I think it's pretty. I think I get it. I don't think I have any questions now.
Yeah, it looks pretty intuitive. And I seems very robust in terms of the analytics, which I like, and seems like it can get our flows going, and I just like the layout of it. So
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, is there anything else, Mitch, that you think is like imperative that we take a look at?
I don't think from a platform perspective, I think we've covered most of the stuff that you guys were talking about in terms of what you guys are looking to do. I think there's a lot of opportunity to really kind of hammer down, because you guys just have like such specific products that it's going to be, I think, really really simple to set a lot of this stuff up in Klaviyo, of just like upselling, cross-selling, doing the right follow-up emails for the right particular programs. I think it's going to be super simple to do that here in Klaviyo, but I think it's going to be really powerful for what you guys are looking to do. In terms of like functionality set, I think we've kind of covered, what you guys are focused on here. Just to cover pricing, we obviously want to be transparent here. We do charge based on the list size, so depending on how many emails you bring in. You mentioned it was about 5,700, right? Is kind of your list size at the moment.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So you'd be looking at about $225 a month. That covers you up to 6,000 emails. And you can send as many emails as you want. So there's no send limit there. You can send unlimited emails.
Awesome. Okay.
Just
we're
the next price up at
sorry?
Yeah, next price up would be from 6,000 to 7,000, which would be $250. It goes $25 for another 1,000.
Okay. Cool.
And each time, so is that just the pricing structure? So does it continue on that, or does it then cross over to like a different pricing tier?
It does cross over to another like price per email at some point here.
Yeah.
So it's about $25 for every 1,000, and that's up to 10,000. And then once you go from 10 to 15,000, then it goes for every 5,000 emails, it's $50. So it gets cheaper. It cuts
You
that
said
in by.
Okay, got it.
That makes sense. Like,
cool.
So yeah, 1,000 for $25, and then it goes from to 5,000 for $50. So that's like 1/3, I think, or 1/3 of the cost or something per email.
Yeah.
I don't know. My math skills are
great.
not stellar at the moment.
It's all right. I'm like, yeah, no worries. No, but that makes sense.
Cool. So what do you guys think? I mean, is this something you guys want to move forward with?
We'll send the recording to Dorian, and then we could all talk about it. I think one of the biggest things for her was the automated email, so we'll have her talk it over.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you guys want, I mean, you feel free to go either sign up for a new account, or you can have Dorian log into the old account, reintegrate your Shopify store, and just start playing around. You can log in integrate your store for free, and just start playing around, get hands-on with the platform, start experimenting with this stuff and really feel like, does it feel user-friendly? Obviously, I live in the platform. I've been doing this for 2 years, and so I can zip around it pretty quick. But,
Yeah.
obviously, I want you guys to get hands-on for a little bit as well, and then kind of see if it's a similar experience for you guys. So feel free to do that. Again, you can create a new account, or I know Dorian created one like 2 years ago, so you can just relog into that one as well.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Well,
Great. Well, thanks so much, Mitch.
Cool. Yeah, sounds good. I'll shoot you guys an email like next week. Do you guys know when you're roughly trying to make a decision one way or the other?
Very soon. So yeah, I mean,
Okay.
if you want to circle back, maybe Monday, that'd be great. And it's very, if we can, maybe we'll get in touch with you sooner. But yeah, I'd say if not,
Okay.
why don't you just check in with us Monday? That'd be great.
Yeah, perfect. Awesome. Well, it was great to meet you both. Appreciate your time, and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks. You too, Mitch. Take care.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.